All right, let's talk about the ban and restricted announcement. Taking a walk for lunch right now. I just read it and get some thoughts out of my head. I'm gonna go look at it real fast. I'll read what I can for you on this, and we'll we'll just try and make sense of it together here. So first off, I think an important piece of news on this announcement was that they have their announcement today for the once a year early rotation window for standard, or goal for this window is the next rotation cycle. That's all well and good, but the important thing here, I think, is uh, that they completely focused this ban announcement on standard. They said the previous update, the ban and restricted announcement, focused on changes to modern and legacy with massive upheaval in Pauper. But for this announcement, we're shining a spotlight on standard. Given the quantity of cards being banned in standard on the ban list, I'll just go ahead and roll the carpet out for you. Okay, fine. Um, so they're basically telling us here they do not give a crap about any other format right now in this announcement aside from standard, which is disappointing, of course, because if we look at the ban list for what happened, I think we can pretty much look at this and say, okay, standard Corey Stonecutter, Abuelo's Awakening, Monstrous Rage, Heartfire Hero, Up the Beanstalk, Hopeless Nightmare, This Town Ain't Big Enough, all banned. Pioneer, no changes. Modern, no changes. Legacy, no changes. Vintage, no changes. Pauper, no changes. Jeez. So it looks like they did not even have anything that they cared about for any of the other formats. However, when we go to look at the Legacy, scroll down here, we'll go ahead and look at the Legacy announcement, because that's what we care about. It's been a few months since we last took action in Legacy. Back in March was the only real way to engage with the format was by playing any form of combo, prison, or Eldrazi. At the time, our intent was explicitly to remove the negative play patterns of Sowing Micro Spawn and take the Mere Reanimator down a peg. Thus far, the results have been mixed to positive. I would say negative to mixed, in my opinion. The format's been pretty miserable to play. I think a lot of people feel that way. Proof in the pudding is I went to my LGS on Saturday to play in a 1K. 7 people showed up. That's not format help. Okay. Since the banning of Sowing Micro Spawn, Eldrazi decks have been more or less banished from the metagame, with Mystic Forge artifact combo taking its place among the popular colorless decks. Dimir Reanimator, on the other hand, has remained the most popular deck in the format, albeit at a lower win rate and a smaller share of the meta games. In a lot of games, this is the process working as intended. If you say so, I don't see it. I think what you have here is a deck that remains at the top, and people are playing it still. Like it's still an issue to see that deck everywhere. And look, at the end of the day, I'm going to be on this deck now. I think that if they're not going to ban it now, they're certainly not going to ban it in the next BNR when we have a couple of days until Eternal Weekend. I just don't see them being like, yeah, we're going to take some real action 12 days before Eternal Weekend. It's just I just don't see that happening. Okay, so ultimately eternal formats are a place where people want to feel like they can put a bunch of time into collecting all the cards for a deck and know that it will be viable for a long time. I agree with that statement in theory, given that the most recent Legacy showcase in Magic Online had an extremely diverse top 8 with a lone copy of Dimir Reanimator going into the quarterfinals. It feels like Legacy players have directions that they can go into if they want to be successful without playing Daze and Entomb together. It is hard for us to disentangle if the reason for Dimir showing up at a high play rate is because of the best deck in Legacy, or if Legacy is delivering on its promise, allowing players to play the same cards year over year. If it's difficult for you to say that, you need to be doing more research, because asking people would be the first form of research you should be doing after looking at numbers and play rates, which you have all of. If it's difficult for you to figure that out, you really need to be checking to see what the player base feels like. If people aren't showing up to their tournaments because they'd rather be doing something else than playing against two decks in a format, that's not format health. All right, continuing. One divisive topic in Legacy is the existence of the Oops All Spells deck. Oops All Spells is a deck that exists on the back of technicalities and technically complex rules interactions. The deck shouldn't exist. It's not using the cards the way they were intended to be made. We should just change the MDSC ruling, and that would fix this completely. I don't even care about Spy or Informer being banned. It wouldn't make any difference to me whatsoever if they just changed the MDSC rules. This deck would go back to being a meme, which is what it was before. All right, the deck gets its name by not playing any cards that are lands on the front side, then maximizing what it can get out of that restriction. Its initial configuration uses Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer to mill the entire deck. Recur some creatures like Snark Weevil, Poxwalkers, and use those creatures to fuel flashback cost of Dread Return. We're going to show here for a minute. Targeting Thassa's Oracle to win immediately. After sideboard, the deck can dodge graveyard hit by using Charm Filter to reveal 40 or 50 cards and kill the opponent in one giant shot. As the deck has evolved over time, cards like Jack-O-Lantern and Memory Journey have helped the deck become more resilient to the norm. To this deck, we can be this deck can be particularly frustrating to lose to because it feels like it's abusing Magic's game engine more than playing Magic, a game of Magic, to other people. It's an illustration of why Magic's game engine is cool. No, it's an illustration of the flaws in the Magic game system that you should seal up immediately. The deck is doing a bunch of things that should not be allowed and rewards having a deep knowledge of the rules and cards in Magic. That's not true. It's not rewarding the deep knowledge. It's rewarding being able to look online and see a deck and have someone explain how this deck works. That's not a reward of deep knowledge of the game. Reward of deep knowledge of the game is understanding how to play a tempo deck properly and like navigate the back and forth of several turns playing the game, or being able to beat Storm, or even learning Storm I would consider being a deep knowledge of the game reward. But anyhow, so it puts us in a difficult position of trying to arbitrate whether we think it has a positive or negative impact. Come the F on with that. Ridiculous. And it's got a negative impact on the environment. If no one's showing up to your local, that's the reason why. The game isn't fun if no one's showing up to your local. That's the only reason why people don't want to play Magic right now. All right. Unlike other archetypes, so much of why this deck exists is because one-of-a-kind cards that run the risk of killing a deck completely if we address the archetype. For now, the deck is showing up at a range that is acceptable for decks in the format as a win rate that is within permissible ranges, which has us reluctant to make a change. Given the strong negative reaction some players have to playing against this deck and how hard it can be to adapt, the bar it has to clear for us to take action against it is lower than some other decks. But for now, we're happy to let such a unique deck have a place to exist within Magic. This is crazy. So they're basically all but saying at the next opportunity, we're going to go ahead and ban this deck interaction, but we're probably going to allow it to exist for this Eternal Weekend, because certainly they're not going to ban anything on September 20th. It'd be nonsense to ban anything on September 20th. September 30th, right before, the first Eternal Weekend is October 12th and 13th, so they're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. So if they make that ban before 12 days before Eternal Weekend, and everyone has to pivot and figure out what they want to play, I mean, screw them. If you're a Oops All Spells player, I have no remorse for you. You should definitely have a second deck in case a ban happens. But I don't see them taking out Reanimator anytime soon unless the play rate gets insane, which, look, for what it's worth, I'm going to start playing Reanimator because it's easily the best deck in the format. And, I play Shuffle Illusionist right now. I play the Breakfast deck, but it's just easier to be a graveyard deck that can also pivot into a solid tempo plan instead of being like bad creatures that you have to use Urza Saga to get things to work in. So I don't know. This is my initial reaction to the ban announcement. Piss poor effort by Wizards of the Coast on this. And it just highlights that we need a community panel to get in the room with these people and make it clear to them that this is about more than just play rate and numbers. It's also about whether or not people want to play the format. And right now, that's not happening on a real level. You're going to see big numbers for Eternal Weekend this year, specifically because it's one of the few times everybody can get together. It's a touchstone event. We're going to that event, whether or not the format's bad. We all want to see our friends hang out. It's more of a experience. It's a zeitgeist moment for the format, for the community. People go to that whether or not they think the format is good, and those numbers will continue to increase unless something drastic happens. So don't use Eternal Weekend as your marker as to whether or not the format is healthy. Use the local metagame. If your local isn't firing, speak up. Say something to Wizards at Wizards_Magic. Make sure they know that you're upset about this announcement. If you're upset, and I don't know what to say. I hope that the format gets better, but I don't see anything aside from the social contract fixing it right now. So anyhow, thank you everybody for watching, and Phil and I will get in with some more content very soon, and we'll discuss this in much more detail. But I wanted to get this out as fast as possible. Catch you later.